The night was black as coal, the kind of night when even the stars hid behind thick storm clouds. The highway stretched out endlessly through sheets of rain, each gust of wind rattling the signs along the road. Ethan's wipers fought a losing battle as the storm intensified, beating down on the windshield of his old Ford F-150. His thermos of coffee sat untouched beside him, cold now, but he didn't care. He just wanted to make it home, to his sleeping daughter, to the quiet hum of the old farmhouse that had become his entire world since the accident took his wife 2 years ago. He slowed as he passed the dim light of a rundown gas station, thinking maybe he'd stop to check his tires. But just as he turned his signal on, his headlights caught movement in the rain ahead. At first, it looked like a couple arguing by the side of the road. The man was shouting, his gestures sharp and angry, and the woman was holding something, a child, maybe. Lightning flashed, and Ethan saw it clearly, a woman clutching a little girl, her hair plastered to her face, soaked from head to toe. The man beside her slammed the trunk shut, pointed furiously toward the darkness, and then, without another word, jumped into his silver sedan and sped off, spraying water over both of them as he disappeared into the storm. Ethan's stomach twisted. He hesitated, his hands tightening on the wheel. This wasn't his problem, he told himself. People had their fights, it wasn't his place to get involved. But then the woman fell to her knees, clutching the little girl tightly as the wind howled around them. The child was crying, a sound that pierced through the thunder and rain, thin and desperate. That was all it took. Ethan shut off his engine, yanked his jacket from the passenger seat, and stepped out into the storm. The cold hit him instantly, slicing through the fabric of his clothes. Water splashed around his boots as he crossed the road. "Hey," he shouted over the roar of the rain. "You okay?" The woman turned her head sharply, her eyes wide with fear. She looked young, maybe in her late 20s, but exhaustion lined her face. "Please," she said, her voice breaking. He just left us here. We don't have anywhere to go." Ethan glanced up and down the highway, nothing but darkness. The nearest town was a good 20 miles back, and the storm wasn't letting up anytime soon. The little girl in her arms whimpered, hiding her face against her mother's shoulder. "Come on," Ethan said, motioning toward his truck. "You can't stay out here." The woman hesitated, taking a step back. "We'll be fine," she murmured. "We'll find something." He shook his head. "No, you won't. There's nothing out here for miles. You'll both freeze before morning." For a few seconds, she just stood there, torn between fear and trust. Then, as a bolt of lightning split the sky, she finally nodded. Ethan extended his hand, and she took it. Her fingers were ice cold. He guided them across the slick road, opened the passenger door, and helped them in. The heater blasted warm air as he started the truck. The little girl's teeth chattered softly while her mother rubbed her hands, trying to warm her up. Ethan reached into the glove box and handed her an old towel. "Here," he said, "use this for her." She looked at him, eyes filled with cautious gratitude. "Thank you," he nodded, pulling back onto the road. "Where to?" She hesitated. "Anywhere but back there," she whispered. Ethan didn't ask what "back there" meant. He just drove, the truck rumbling through the rain. The wipers squeaked rhythmically as he glanced at the two strangers in his passenger seat, the drenched mother and her trembling daughter, and something inside him stirred. He didn't know it yet, but this stormy night, this single act of stopping, would change everything for all three of them. The rain had dwindled to a gentle drizzle by the time Ethan turned onto the narrow dirt road leading to his farmhouse. The tires crunched softly over wet gravel, headlights casting pale light over the soaked pine trees that bordered the property. The small house came into view, its porch light glowing faintly through the mist, a warm yellow promise against the dark storm. Ethan parked the truck near the porch and turned off the ignition. The sudden quiet was almost startling after the roar of the storm. "You can come inside," he said, his voice low but firm. "It's not much, but it's warm." The woman hesitated, clutching the sleeping child to her chest. "We don't want to be a bother. Just let us rest in the truck until morning." Ethan shook his head. "You'll both catch your death out here. Come on." She studied him for a long moment, eyes weary but cautious, before finally nodding. He opened the door for her, shielding her and the child with his jacket as they hurried through the drizzle and up the wooden steps. The porch creaked under their feet, and when Ethan pushed open the door, the comforting scent of pinewood and faint lavender drifted out. Inside, the warmth from the wood stove spread through the small living room. A faint glow from the embers painted the walls a soft orange. The woman, Claire, as she introduced herself, set her daughter down on the worn couch near the fire. The little girl stirred, blinking up sleepily at Ethan before cuddling into a blanket he handed her. Ethan took off his wet jacket and hung it by the door. "You can hang yours there too," he said gently. She hesitated, then did so, wringing out her hair as she moved closer to the fire. "You must be freezing," he said. "I'll make some cocoa." He disappeared into the small kitchen, the sound of the kettle filling with water breaking the silence. When he returned a few minutes later, 2 steaming mugs sat in his hands. Claire took one carefully, the warmth seeping through her cold fingers. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice hoarse from crying. Ethan sat down across from her, resting his elbows on his knees. "You don't need to thank me. Anyone would have done the same." She shook her head, staring into the flames. "No, they wouldn't have. My ex, he told me no one ever would." Ethan didn't respond at first. He looked toward the sleeping girl, her small hands clutching a wooden toy horse that had belonged to his daughter. "He sounds like a man who liked being cruel," Ethan said finally. Claire gave a faint, bitter smile. "He wasn't always, but after I left him once, he changed. Said if I ever tried again, he'd make sure we had nowhere to go. And tonight," her voice trembled. "He proved it." Silence fell. The only sound was the crackle of the fire and the gentle ticking of the wall clock. Ethan stared into the flames, remembering the nights he'd sat there alone, holding his baby girl while grief tore at him from the inside. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "No one deserves that." Claire looked up, her eyes glistening in the soft light. "Why did you stop for us?" He met her gaze. "Because someone once stopped for me," he said simply. She didn't ask what he meant. Maybe she already knew the weight in his voice. The little girl shifted in her sleep, and Ethan gently draped another blanket over her. "Stay tonight," he said softly. "Tomorrow, I'll take you both wherever you need to go." Claire hesitated, emotion flickering across her face. "You don't even know us." "Don't need to," he said. "You needed help. That's enough." The tension in her shoulders eased, just a little. She set her empty mug on the table and leaned back, exhaustion overtaking her. "Thank you, Ethan," she murmured. He smiled faintly, the first real smile in a long time. "Get some rest. You're safe here." As she drifted off beside her daughter, the rain finally stopped outside, leaving only the soft rustle of wind through the pines. Ethan sat by the fire a while longer, watching the glow dance across their faces. Something inside him, something long buried, stirred quietly. For the first time in years, the house didn't feel empty. The storm had passed, but its echo had left behind something unexpected: hope.